So my name's Silkie. My real name's Solomon Rose. I started producing, I would say, in 2001, so very long time ago. I started out making grime and UK garage, kind of. It was at a time where UK garage was kind of turning into grime. And I ended up getting into the dubstep scene really early, before it was called dubstep. And so I'm kind of like an innovator in dubstep or something like that. And I, at this point, I've kind of come back to my roots in UK garage. So I wanted to kind of show you the fundamentals of UK garage, and also at the same time show you how to use Bitwig. I thought it'd be fun to do both at the same time. So if anyone's familiar with Ableton, they will kind of understand a little bit of this structure. This is kind of like the clip launcher, session view, if you will, if you're from Ableton. But this is where you can kind of start your idea. You could. Where did that come from? Did anyone hear that?
Maybe someone is not muted.
What was that?
Yeah, we'll just keep going.
Okay. I was like, what? Okay, I felt like it came from my room. I was really like, okay. So here is our clips. This holds our audio or MIDI data. And this is where you do your arrangement. So where you would do things kind of linear. So UK garage, like the first kind of thing that you need is the drums, that's the kind of the bedrock of the sound. So if I play you this beat that I made, I basically done this last night. So and I'll start to bring in the elements so you can see how it builds up. And then so this is the kind of straight beat at this point. So the BPM is kind of like 130, I would say between 120 and 130. But this is one of the most classic kind of UK garage features, is this open hi-hat. But at this point, it's kind of a very simple UK garage beat. It hasn't got a total UK garage flavor. And that's because we kind of need these in-between kind of beats here. So like these basically fall in between the like straight, like 1/8 kind of beat. So if I add those in, like you need information there to kind of give it that UK garage feel. And if we continue here, we add these extra hi-hats. But it's still not done. It's still not UKG enough, because we need to add shuffle. And this is where Bitwig has a universal, like global shuffle setting. So if you go into the play menu, you can see you've got enable groove. So, in FL Studio, which is the program I originally came from, it's called Swing. In Ableton, I think it's called like groove templates or something like this. So every kind of DAW has its own way of calling it, but every DAW will have it. And Bitwig has a really nice solution because it has a universal global shuffle. So you don't have to do it to every individual element. You can just do it globally here. So I click on this, and now you can hear the UK garage sound. I think Peter K needs to turn off the mic. I hear kitchen sounds. Peter, is it Peter R? Peter R?
Sorry, are we supposed to listen to the beat actually, or because I don't hear the sounds when you play them on the DAW.
Did you click on the link for the?
Okay, that's the thing. Okay, I'll figure it out. Sorry, though. Sorry.
Don't worry, there'll be a recording, so you'll be able to hear it back. All right. Can you hear that? Thumbs up? Okay. So the next element, I would say is like chords or bass line. So let's go on to the bass line. So this is a nice thing about Bitwig, because you can kind of build up your pattern in a loop here, and then later on we can go and think about how we're going to actually arrange it. But at this point, you're just building up your idea. You're not thinking about exactly how it's going to be arranged. So I don't know if you can hear this properly, but let's see. And if you look closely, you've got these kind of offbeats here. So I could have had it here, like this, which is cool. But that UK garage sound is kind of like you're finding those offbeat patterns and that syncopation, which is really important to the UK garage sound. And another thing that's actually really important in the UK garage sound is actually space. So you can see that in between here, I could have filled this up with extra beats, like, which is cool. But the whole kind of point of UK garage is that call and response. So you want other elements in that part where you can kind of call and respond. So that's why I kind of left that gap. So we can see when I have the other elements kind of interacting with it, like this marimba. Oh, sorry, that was for the bass. I'm going to move on to that in a second. Yes, do this one. So this is using the polysynth, which is like Bitwig's kind of standard synthesizer. But the cool thing that I've got here is the multi-note, which is basically it will make I would say like a stat. You can basically build up a chord, but it's a static chord, so it doesn't change by chord type. You basically set your chord type here. If you click on this, so this is basically a MIDI effect, I would say. And what is it called in Bitwig? It's called let me see. They call it a note effect. So what it does is it actually modifies the incoming MIDI signals. So you've got the MIDI signals coming from here. They go here, and then it modifies it before it gets to the synth. So if you click before the synth, it will actually show you these are all the MIDI, the note effects that you can add. So these are all the different pitches. 0 will be the actual pitch that you have here. But if I actually start to build it up, you can see that's the same as coming from here. Add that. So this sound has quite a percussive kind of sound to it, and that's kind of key in the UK garage feel, because originally it would sound like this. So this is the cutoff. But this EG, this is connected to this envelope generator here. So this is like a hardwired connection. So if I increase this shape will be implanted on top of this. So another important thing in the UK garage, they used a lot of kind of strange things for basses, a lot of organ sounds that came from house, and they also used marimbas, but in the bass register. So if you listen to this sound, let me take it up an octave. So but now if you take this down, you get this percussive. And I add this with the bass. Now with the beat. So at this point, has anyone got any questions? Anyone? Okay, I'll continue. And now, so I've got this other sound here, which is a marimba also, but I've got it in a higher register doing a melody. So we've got all our elements now. We've got our bass, we've got our drums, we've got our like bass layer, which is a marimba, but in the lower register, and we have our chords. Now, so at this point in the track, I'd start thinking about variations and, you know, how I could kind of try and build this out a little bit more. First thing I would do is if you click on the top here and you hold control, it would be command on a Mac maybe. You can kind of drag this across and make basically a copy of this, all of this, and work on that. But what I like to do is if I select everything here and I right click and I go to double content, it's actually a really cool feature because it means now everything is twice as long as it was before. So now I can just do something just to the end here rather than having it on a whole another scene that I have to keep on switching between. So I can start thinking about just little variations. Like even just that makes it easier to listen to, you know, because it sounded really repetitive. So now it's, you know, it's got a little bit more, it's a little bit easier to listen to because it's not so repetitive. So once you've got these elements here and you're happy with that, I like to kind of mix as I go along so that I can kind of hear where the spaces are. So especially if I want to add new elements, I kind of need to know where the spaces are, you know, audio wise, to be able to add elements in that makes sense. So this is where we will actually go into the mixer. So if you see, this is the drum machine with all the drums in it, and they actually have their own like mixer channel that you could add it here. So I could add something specifically for this instrument here, but I actually prefer to do it in the mixer. So this is the mixer here. Sorry, I think there's quite a sound coming through. Is that Komoto? Komoto, could you mute your mic, please? All right, so let's so we got these snares at the moment that are kind of layering each other. When you layer sounds that are quite similar, this is an important time to try and separate them in some way. So let's only listen to. So I got this sound, the snare, and in Garage you kind of want a short, snappy snare. It kind of gives it that speed. If it's a long snare, then it kind of feels drawn out, and you kind of need that short, snappy sound. And I've also got a clap to layer it. So, but to my ear, they're like too close in frequency. So this is where we'll use the EQ plus, Bitwig's EQ. So I've already done this kind of. So I just want the snap of the snare. I don't want that the whole body of it. Like. And if we listen to this in context, so. Can everyone hear that difference? So another cool thing maybe to do is maybe put a little bit of reverb on this clap. So let's try and do that. The really nice thing about Bitwig's, so if you want to actually go to exactly where something is, if you click on it here, you'll see that it will actually move to exactly where it is. So this is Bitwig's reverb, but for what we want, this is way too much reverb. So kind of just want it, and it's got a bit too much high frequencies at the moment. So this is where you'd use this. But at the moment, it sounds a bit too metallic. Yeah, so if you listen to it on its own, this is where Bitwig's really cool because it's got a tank effect, which is basically you're able to put an effect inside the feedback of the reverb, because a reverb is basically a delay in a sense, but really fast. So this is the tank effect. If you click on this, then you'll see this little green thing that comes up. That means I'll put an effect here. So you click on that, you see it comes out. Click on this, and then maybe I'll put a chorus. So choruses, flanges, phasers, they're kind of cool things to put here. So use the chorus plus. See, it kind of smooths it out a bit. So it's very subtle. But in music production, very subtle things over time, doing loads of little subtle things. Well, that's the difference between like an amateur kind of sounding beat and a professional one. Because over time, those little subtle things will make it sound more professional. And you see this late mix is also kind of affecting how digital it kind of sounds. So. Okay, so I'm okay with that. Just need a little bit less of it. All right, then let's work on the bass line while we're listening to the bass line and the beat. So Polymer is Bitwig's second kind of synth. So you had is it polysynth and then Polymer? They're a little bit confusing, but Polymer basically is like a. Has anyone heard of the grid? The Bitwig's grid. So it's kind of like a face on top of the grid, because if you click on this, you'll see that this is like connections in the background. And if that's too intimidating for you, you never have to see them. You know, it's not something that you have to work with. But it's a kind of nice intro into the grid, because all the kind of grid patches you can kind of interchange. So if I click here, you'll see I can pick from all these different type of oscillators. At the moment, I'm using the wavetable, but I don't have to. I could change it for this one. And also you can change out the cutoff. So I can say, I don't want this type of, the filter. I want one of the new filters. And say I want a square wave. Very garagey. But for our purposes, I think we were on a good filter here. This one, the XP filter, is really nice for like low basses. So let's go back to the low pass filter. So that's a super garage sound, like square wave with a little bit of envelope here. So this is imparting this onto this cutoff here. So this shape, and then we just got a low pass filter. And really cool, that one of the main features of Bitwig is that you're able to modulate everything. So all of these things here, you can modulate them. And this is how you do it with these, what do they call these? I'm not even sure. So these are the modulators, but I'm not sure what this area is called. But yeah, so these are the options you have as modulators. So obviously the most standard kind of type of modulator is LFO. So we go classic LFO. So now if you click on this, you'll actually see the controls of the LFO. At the moment, it's not doing anything because I need to connect it. So if you click on this thing here, you'll see that these all turn, like if you look at it again, so they all kind of change color. And this means that they're able to be modulated. So I can modulate this. But at the moment, the kind of only problem is that it's not synced to any beat. So at the moment, it's on like this Hertz mode, which is, cycles per second, which is actually not linked to any beat. So you can change it to beats mode, dotted beats, or triplets. So. So this is where you change the speed of the LFO. So I've got it on, let me just put it onto just beats mode. It's the most simple mode you can have it on. That's tempo synced. Change it to 1/16. Probably a bit too much for what I want to do, but just to show you it's possible. But if I wanted to trigger every time the note starts, so the LFO starts over again every time the note starts, this is where you put note retrigger. So But if you see, once I've done that now, it actually means that the LFO doesn't actually go through its full cycle because of the speed. So because the speed is 1/8, it doesn't give it enough time before the note gets re-triggered again to go through its full cycle. So you'd have to increase the speed if you're going to trigger the note. If you're going to trigger the LFO by the note every time. So. I think for our purposes, it's probably best to not re-trigger it on every note and just have it kind of free flowing. So. Okay, so we've done something cool with the bass. Let's move on to. So this is the layer of the bass, right? So let's listen to those two on their own. So you can see that I've actually got an EQ here that I've muted for the moment. Because I just wanted to bring out just a little bit of the frequency of this marimba sound. So listen to it with this. It's nice to have like another element that you can bring in at a different time. So, when I'm thinking about arranging the beat, I can basically have, this is the main bass. So that's the main bass that comes in. And a little bit later, I can build it up. Okay, so maybe I can start talking. Let me know if you want me to start talking about like the music theory behind like UK Garage, or if that's above. I don't know if that's
Maybe there are some questions already.
The scope of this workshop. Yeah. Does anyone have any questions?
Silkie, if you could maybe just check if there's anyone in the waiting room.
How do I do? Okay, so I just admit all.
Yes.
Okay.
Thanks. Awesome.
Hi guys. Did anyone have a question before they get into the room? Go on. You're telling me, Mike.
Hi.
Hi there.
Hi. So I've been using Bitwig for 2 months now, and it's been a great tool for making beats. I'm also very interested in UK Garage, so if you had the time to explain a bit about the theory, that would be also great. I wanted to ask now, have you been satisfied with the compressors and the EQs? Because I've been bombarded with like tons of people on the web telling like use this plugin and this plugin, and sometimes I feel that it's been overwhelming. So do you think that Bitwig is a DAW that you can like rely really well on the presets that it has when it comes to mixing and mastering?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, Bitwig has enough in there for you to be able to make a professional sounding piece of audio. I think when it comes to people advocating for their plugins and different kind of plugins you can have. I wouldn't say don't get any plugins, because I think that it's more about you know, a color of sound that you want, because most of the plugins will be able to do the same thing that, you know, or even more in Bitwig than they would be able to do because of the modulation system. So I would say I actually really like the Bitwig instruments, using them, even though I've got a lot of VSTs, because I'm able to affect them in ways that I can't do with the VSTs. You know, so I'm able to do modulation and just do crazy stuff with them, and do unique stuff with them in Bitwig. So I would say, like, just the technical quality of them is definitely industry standard. But it really depends. I mean, if you listen, you know, if you watch a video and someone's got a really great plugin that you're like amazed with the sound of, there's no reason not to, you know, go out and get that plugin. But I wouldn't. Bitwig's not holding you back, though. That's the thing. Yeah, you know, and obviously it's people's jobs to get you to buy stuff. So yeah, of course they're going to make it sound as great as they you know, as they can, and they're going to sell it to you. So it makes sense. I mean, I watch YouTube and want to buy a million things, and that's just normal, you know. But I wouldn't feel any pressure to go, I need to get this, otherwise it won't sound professional, because that's just not true. I mean, the amount of people that make beats in you know, I started out on FL Studio making beats on FL Studio 3.5 or something, and it didn't even have VSTs. This is before VSTs. So I mean, and they got released, and you know, so I mean, if that could happen, then there's no reason you can't make great music in Bitwig that sound professional. So I hopefully answered your question.
Yes, thank you very much. And one more.
Go ahead.
Yeah. The arrangement had the part where you made the beats on the scenes. So I usually make the beat like straight to the arrangement on the right side.
Yeah.
And I kind of have like a hard time because I have this on the native instrument as well, on a drum machine. Like, what's the difference if I make it on scene one? Is it just for live purpose, or like when it comes to combine all these things together when it's time to export that? Like, if you can help me out figuring like this.
No, of course, this is what I'm here for. So for me, like, I actually don't do that much live stuff. So I, you know, even though that the kind of purpose of this is in a way for live, that's not actually the main use for me anyway. So the way I actually use it is prototyping arrangements in a way. So, you know, once I get to a place where I'm happy, so I'll kind of demonstrate it. So, okay, I'm happy with all these elements. I'll bring all the elements in. So. Okay, and now all I do is copy this over, and I will mute certain parts and say, this is my intro, and then let's extend this out. I have different, you know, I'll copy it over a few times. And even here, maybe I'd say I don't really need all these elements in straight away, so I can take these out. That's going to do that. And take these out as well, maybe. I can just click on here, actually. Mute that. Maybe mute that. So that's my intro drum beat. And now that's not affected any of these. And I've not had to move things around and stuff like that, you know. So I can just be like, okay, this is my intro. And you can rename stuff here. So if I click here, you can call this intro. And give it a different color. Say this is my intro color. So yeah, it's just really flexible when it comes to that kind of stuff. So now I can think about, what is my drop going to sound like? Okay, this is my drop. I mute these three. And so this makes it really easy. So once you're starting to arrange, I just drag this in. This is my intro. And then, you know, say maybe I want this to be my drop. now I've basically done a little bit of an arrangement. And if I click on here, this is how you switch it over from, so at the moment it's only playing the scenes and it's not playing the arrangement. But if you click on this button here, it will switch everything over to the arrangement view. So now it's playing the arrangement. Obviously my intro would be much more involved than this, but this is an example of how you can kind of use it to prototype. And also, you know, once I'm actually arranging, imagine I think I actually need a hi-hat to go along with this, or just some sound. Let's try and pick something. Say I wanted a cowbell, but I didn't want to have to put it in the arrangement because I don't know where I'm going to put it in the arrangement. I can just put it here, play that, and just start working on it. So I didn't have to actually put it in the actual arrangement yet. I might not even use it. So I just go, it declutters your arrangement. You're able to just prototype stuff and see if it fits, you know, so I can have it going. And then at some point, you know, maybe something further down the line in the track. So maybe at this point in the track, I just want to see if it works here. No, it doesn't work there. Maybe it works here, you know, and it's really easy to do that rather than having to drag this around and be like, does it work there? Does it work there? No, I can just quickly move around here, have this still playing. And when I'm happy with it, I'm like, okay, it's in the right place now. I just put it there and then I switch this over to arrangement view. Now it's it. I also use it to save things. So imagine I've done like, you know, I've done a melody, but I can't find a place for it. And I've done it here. I'll just chuck it here, save it. And, you know, it won't affect my arrangement, but it's just there that if I need it at any point, I'm like, okay, oh yeah, I wanted to use that to drag it back out. So yeah, that's one of the many uses for it. So do you have another question in regards to that?
Just wanted to add, like, this is also like a perfect tool, like Bitwig, for live performance as well.
Yeah.
Like using the scenes and have everything pre-recorded and just changing or like playing on that.
Yeah, and you do it in a similar way, you know. So in the sense of you would have your intro, your drop, and then you would basically just launch it from here, and then launch individual scenes from here. But yeah, you can go really crazy. There's got like loads of different options. Like, so they got options per clip. So you've got these options here, like play modes, and whether you want something to play twice and then stop. So yeah, you can go really crazy. I know how to do it personally because I'm a geek when it comes to these kind of things. Even if I'm not doing it now, I will always learn how to do it when a new feature comes out. Just so that at some point, if I do want to do it, I don't have to now, learn it from scratch. So yeah, I always try to keep up to date with all the new features, even if I don't use all of the new features. No, you can't use all of the features of a DAW at once. It's impossible. It's too many. But you can know all the features at once, at least to a rudimentary level that you can actually, at least, if you have an idea, if you know the feature already, you can map how you're going to, you'll be like, okay, well, I know how to do that, so I could do this. Whereas if you didn't know how to do it, you would never have this idea. So it's good to just know things about the DAW, even if you're not using it right at that moment. Does anyone else have any other questions? Feel free. The new guys, have you got the audio? So are you able to hear the sound as I'm playing it?
Oh, no.
You can't hear the sound?
Yes.
Oh, you can. Do you have a question?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, sir.
I'd like to add, between FL Studio and Ableton, which one is the best which one has the best CPU that you can use?
What do you mean, like the best utilization of the CPU?
Which one is the best digital audio workstation?
But I don't use Ableton, so I couldn't really speak on Ableton. I use FL. I've used FL Studio and I use Bitwig and I use Studio One. So it'd be difficult I can't speak on something that I don't use. But I don't know. But have you got a specific reason why you thinking about the CPU?
Yes, because I'm using Apple Studio, and what I've learned is that like making boom bap sound, because I'm doing hip hop, right?
Yeah.
I know you're doing dubsteps, but for me, what I've learned on like
Sorry, iPhone, can you mute it for a second?
so what I've learned like on using FL Studio, it's way much different from like working with Ableton. For like our new sound as South Africans called Amapiano.
Yeah.
Amapiano now they started their new genre on FL Studio. We like the hip hop culture and the deep house. We
Yeah.
wanted to understand how did they invent that sound, only to find out it was invented through FL Studio. And we tried other softwares as in Ableton and also the Logic Pros, but we
Yeah.
couldn't make pianos. We had to create our own sound, which is the same as like FL Studio. So I wanted to like get more reference. Which one is the best that you can distribute for like for like a producer actually?
So like a lot of genres, like so dubstep was originally kind of created on FL Studio. And there's quite a lot of different scenes that you could, tie it to, like, so that, hip hop with the MPC. But I don't think that would mean that you're not able to now, create on a different program. I think it's more about the availability of the software at the time when the genre was coming about. So for me, at the start of the dubstep scene, the reason why everyone had FL Studio, the young kids at least, like the younger ones like me at the time, Benga, Scream, we had FL Studio because it was the easiest one to get. So I don't. We didn't really choose it because we thought it was the best or whatever. The only reason we were on FL Studio is because we didn't know how to get the other ones. So we just got the one that we could get, and we started making as much music as we could from that. And I think the same thing with the MPC with hip hop. It wasn't because they saw all the other things and said I don't want that. The MPC was the most affordable machine at the time, that you could make a beat in your bedroom and you didn't have to use a big studio. So I think when it comes to like the scene and how scenes start and what program they use to start, it's really about availability, because at that time as a young producer, you don't have choices. You just if your friend uses a program and he can teach you, you're gonna use that program. You're not gonna say, I don't want that program. I'm gonna find another program. I think once you start your music production journey and you kind of are knowing the workflows that make sense for you, this is where you get to the point where you can pick and you can say, okay, I've learned FL Studio. I love it. But it maybe for this kind of sound that I want or this workflow, I'm going to pick this other software. I'm going to try it. So I think it just gets to a point where you start to think about trying other software. And, you may never get to the point where you want to try other software, but some software will, for your workflow, will get frustrating to the point where you're like, okay, well, I need to try something else,
Yeah, for real.
That's it. So
Yeah.
that happens for most people, I would say. Most people don't stay on one software. You usually can, especially like experienced people. When you speak to them, they will say, I started on this and then I used this. And they usually use a few different tools at the same time, So like for me, I really like making like drum beats on FL Studio. It's really easy for me to make drum beats. But for modulation and for like the other stuff in the track, Bitwig is my favorite. For like making, for like recording instruments and stuff, Studio One is my kind of go-to for that. So it really depends. Like I would say Bitwig is my main door that I do most things. So if someone sends me something to do or I'm planning to make some music, the first thing I would do is load up Bitwig. But for specific things, I might start the beat in FL Studio. And this is the cool thing about Bitwig. You're able to load FL Studio files in Bitwig and Ableton files. So you don't have to like throw away your old door. So if you've got a really nice workflow going in FL Studio, don't feel like I need to pick. It's like, no, you can use FL Studio to make the drum beats and be like, yeah, I'm really great at doing that. And then for modulation and stuff, there's really no competition between FL Studio and Bitwig. So if you're gonna do a lot more modulation in the track, then I would always suggest to go towards Bitwig. And if your track is purely like you're only working, you're like a mixing engineer or something, then I would suggest you Studio One. So it really, really depends on what you're doing and your workflow and what you're comfortable with.
Thank you, sir.
No problem, man. Anyone else have any other questions?
Hi, I have a question.
Go ahead.
So I think so I'm a like beginner producer. I started on FL, I've been on Ableton. I've recently just started trying out Logic Pro, and I just wanted to ask a question specific to Bitwig beginners. Like,
Yeah.
what would you say are the perks of being a beginner on Bitwig, and like what resources and tools do you provide for beginner producers?
So did you get the Bitwig 8-track, the license?
No,
Okay, because I think we. So are you saying that you've tried Bitwig or you haven't tried it?
I've just read up on it.
Okay, because I think as a part of this workshop, you were actually given a license for Bitwig 8-track, so you can actually test it out and you actually use it yourself. So
Okay, I'll touch base with the organizers
yeah,
because
I'll speak to them.
yeah.
But yeah,
Thanks.
so other than that, I think Bitwig, it really depends on what you've used before. If you've used Ableton, it's actually a quite easy learning curve to move over to Bitwig because some things are quite similar. FL Studio is quite different, but it depends on how just your kind of workflow. Because some people might start off on FL Studio, and because that's the first store that they were put in contact with, but their workflow is much more aligned to Bitwig. So it really is about testing it. So obviously you can kind of in theory look up things and be like, this is cool, but until you put your hands on it and you actually see how things work, I would say it's really difficult to kind of suggest, okay, use this, you need to use this. But as I said, with Bitwig 8-track, it's kind of like a version that you can kind of get into without too much, you don't have to spend too much on it to get into it, and you can see whether you like it, and then expand to the full version if you need it. I would say Bitwig has a lot of, it has like a thriving community online. So like on YouTube, there's loads of people that have done beginner videos. I mean, there's so many people you can pick from, but Polarity is really a good one. So I would suggest to look up his stuff, even if you haven't got the program in front of you. You can kind of see how it works. So yeah, there's a lot of resources online just for free that you can go onto YouTube and check out and see whether you like it or not. And I would say the learning curve is the learning curve for all doors is pretty steep. So I don't think you can just kind of easily get into a door. But you can kind of dip your toes and go as quickly as you feel like is possible. Do you have another question, or did I explain it properly?
Sorted. Thank you.
No problem. All good. So is there anyone else? All right, I'll take that as a no. So we were getting on to, oh yeah, so maybe we'll do a little bit about the music theory behind UK Garage. So hopefully it's not going to go over too much over your heads and stuff like that. I'm not sure exactly where everyone is on music theory. I'm not, amazing at music theory. So I'm not going to pretend like this is going to be some sort of, graded music class. I just kind of know what I know. But I had to kind of figure out UK Garage myself, because I listened to it a lot as a child, and I was always fascinated. I think this is kind of the thing that got me into music. It was the first music I ever listened to that I seeked out myself. So it wasn't like just passive, like just it's on the radio, it's on TV. it was actually my sister came in my room when I was young. My mum just bought me a stereo, and this is the kind of, you know, ones where you had to rotate to get any stations. And she was like, "What are you listening to?" And I was like, "I don't know. I'm just listening to, like, it's called Capital FM, which is the main station in London." So I'm listening to that, and she's just like, "What is this?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I'm using it to go to sleep." So she actually ended up putting it on a pirate radio station. So I don't know if you know about pirate radio stations. I don't know if they're a bit. I think they're kind of a bit of a UK thing in a sense. But it was a radio station that was like unsanctioned. So it was, you know, in between the main stations. So it was a weaker signal, but you had to be really careful and kind of catch the signal. So she caught the signal for me for an underground radio station called called Delight FM. No, it's called Ice FM. So I started getting into UK garage, and I was just like really fascinated. I think I was 13 years old. So I'm just like, how did they get all these sounds? It sounded so alien to all this other stuff that was on the radio at the time. So this was in 1999. So, you know, it was really different to the stuff that was on the radio at the time. And I was really fascinated, like, how do they do this? Like, you know, and how what goes into it? And that was kind of like my beginning of my musical journey of like trying to figure out, you know, how do they do these melodies and all these crazy chords and stuff like that. I didn't know they were chords at the time, but yeah, I was just fascinated by the sound. So when it comes to, I had to kind of deconstruct garage in my mind to kind of be able to make it in a sense. So I think the first thing that we can kind of talk about is if we go back to this multi-note plugin. So you see how this is like a static chord. So whatever note I play, it will still play the same chord shape. Yeah, it's not going to change chord shape. I mean, you could modulate this note here and whatever, but the whole idea behind this is back in the day on samplers, they would be able to sample one chord, and then they would have to move that chord around to you know, get different chords. So it'd always be that one chord sample. So that actually ended up kind of going into the sound of garage because of the limitations of the equipment they had. So they had not a lot of sampling time, and they would you know, listen to records and then sample maybe like a little chord stab, and then they would use that chord stab to make a new melody. I don't know if anyone's familiar with like hardcore or jungle, those genres where you have that, like, you know, chord stab, and that was kind of the limitations of the time, and being able to turn that into some sort of new chord structure. And what I'm doing here is basically emulating that, but with a synth. So I'm kind of, this is the chord structure that I'm using. I'm sticking to one chord structure, and within here, double click on this. You know, if I actually build out these chords, so let me take away this multi-note, and let's actually try to build out the chord. So, sorry, one second, guys. Really sorry. My niece was stuck outside. I don't know if I could leave her any longer. So yeah. So where was I? All right. So let me build up this chord. So let's solo this. So this will be doing what the multi-note's doing. You see, I can just basically drag this along. So if I copy this over, So the fact that you're kind of stuck in the chord structure means that when you're building some sort of melody, so some sort of chord progression, you're kind of limited to like whatever kind of chord type. So if it's a minor chord, all your kind of chords will be minor chords in the end. And it will, you know, depending on what notes you pick, some of them will actually be outside of the scale. So so the scale that I'm kind of in at the moment is like, I would say, so it's F. But you can see certain notes like this note is outside of the scale. So the F minor scale would be. But I've got this note in there. And this is kind of like the blues note. So this chord in particular is kind of like the one that is most kind of outside of the scale. That. Because originally, you know, if I was going by the actual, what would make sense in this key that I'm in, it would actually be which is not as fun, you know. It doesn't sound as garage. So you can see that garage uses a lot of, you know, what they call non-diatonic harmony, something like that. But yeah, so that's kind of like the fun of garage, and then you kind of trying to find a melody that goes along with that. So it almost kind of like pushes you outside of the key. So. And like me personally, just I wouldn't put this down to like garage in a sense, but I really like to do bass lines that are kind of got this semitone thing going on here. Like, so this kind of gives it that dark sound. So if you have a listen. So it's that gives it that dark sound straight away, you know. If I was to pick something else, like and then for me it sounds really happy if I do like, for me I would you probably wouldn't catch me doing that. So I always kind of try to stay around the semitones because I really like that dark sound. I would, yeah, as I say, I don't think that's like totally garage or thing, but I think that's just a quirk of me. All right, so do you want to start trying to work on the arrangement, or is there something else that we reckon we should do? Because I'm not exactly sure how much time we have left. I think we got like, I don't know if Jules, how much time do we have left?
Let's say 10 more minutes and then last questions.
Okay, cool. So we can do a little bit of the arrangement here. So as I was kind of showing with this kind of feature here, where I would kind of drag it along and try to make up some sort of intro. So we can carry on working on that. So let's get this out of the way so we've got a bit more space, because I've kind of got all the elements I need in here. So I can move this away, click on this to move it. And if we double click down here, you can just see everything here. So, oh yeah, I need to. So if you click on this, it will switch it to the arrange view. So. So at this point, I wouldn't want the whole intro to just be, you know, just a drum beat, just doing the same thing until 16 bars. So if you hold 5, you would turn to the split tool, or the knife tool, I think they call it. It's a bit violent, but yeah, we click on that. So this is just a copy of this, but now I can affect this like differently to this. So click on this one, give myself a bit more room as well. And let's start here. And maybe I can add this element in here now. So let's just click on this actually. So if you click on this, it will highlight all the notes on that level. So I'm going to unmute that. So when you can hear the transition between the two. Build it up. I probably would like some sort of musical element as well in there as well, not just pure drums. So remember we had this element here. I could use that here. So but I probably, this is where, hello? Someone say something? Okay, I'll ignore it. So I'd make like a simplified version of this. So let's just bring it down to, so this will change the loop here. You see, it will just loop around this area for the whole of here. You can see those little indents. So it won't actually play the whole thing, you'll see. And if I want to get rid of all of this, because every time I click on this, I'm going to see all of this. If I just press, or if I right click, see, I've got a lot of shortcuts, but obviously I've changed some of them as well. So I don't want to like impart them onto you because they might not be the same on your side. So I'll just right click where I would usually use a shortcut. So if I go to consolidate, it will now, it will just make it all the same now. So it got rid of all those extra ones and it just consolidated it all into one thing here. So I'm going to make this a little bit simpler so that it sounds a bit more like an intro, because at the moment there's a bit too much movement. I want to kind of save the movement for when the drop happens. So let's take out some of those and just. So now I still haven't used the chords. So maybe at this part, we can bring the chords in. So if I hold 2, it will turn into like this time selection tool. So if you do it at the top, if you do it here, we'll just select individual things. But if you do it on the ruler, it will select everything below it. And now I can just drag and hold command, release. So let's get to this bit now. So let's go like a couple bars before. Oh yeah, I don't think it has this on. You turn that on. what else could we have? We can have the marimba coming back in and then take this out. Okay. Let's delete that. So again, I'm gonna copy this over. I don't know what's happened here. Okay. All right, I'll do that again. So at this point, maybe I want to keep the chords in, but I kind of don't want them to be as bright. So this is where I can use some sort of automation. So I like to, so if you click on here, this is like the automation for everything on the channel. So if I put something here, and I'll just put a macro. So that's just like just a knob that I can kind of control loads of different things with at once. So if I was to put this macro on the polysynth here, it would only control things on the polysynth. So right, let me make another macro here and show you. So if I click on this, you see that only these things light up, nothing lights up here. Yeah, I only can do things on this polysynth. But this macro, you see how it lights up everything. So I can control everything from here. So this is it's like a newer feature that happened in one of the latest updates, but it's really useful. And then finally, you've actually got the project one. So this one's really, really cool. You can have a macro that affects everything. So it even affects, you see, like the volumes of all these different things. So I could have like an intro where I'm kind of slowly bringing up the volume of certain things. So for arrangement, it's great. You know, you can just have one knob that you're just turning up, and it's, you know, it's increasing the cutoff at the same time as doing a high pass filter on this, and you can go really crazy. But for this example, I just want to use it on the polysynth. So I'm going to use it here. And I'm going to say, I want it to go down as it goes up. So as I turn this up, I want it to, if you can see here, as I turn this up, it will turn the cutoff down. So in this moment, the cutoff will be down. So let's actually make an automation lane. So if you right click, we see add automation lane. Now you can see a little white dot saying that it's got an automation lane attached to it, and it would be here. So the polysynth's here. You can see its color of it here. It matches with this one. So this is how you see all the automations for that channel. Click on here. Now I've got control of the automation for this point. So I'm going to turn it up, and we're going to listen to what that does. So I can start fine tuning it from here. So, okay, I'll click on this again. So it's really cool. Once you kind of just dialed it in a little bit, then you can kind of go crazy and just turn things up or down a little bit and see if it makes sense. So you can always have your starting point. Okay, so let's have a quick listen and one listen through, and we'll wrap it up and we'll start answering some questions. There we go. So, round of questions now. Has anyone got any questions?
Hi. I got a question.
Let's go.
Thank you very much for doing this. It's been really nice. First,
No problem.
I wanted to say that. And
Thank you.
your top bar, like where you have file and the timing and the BPM things,
Yeah.
mine looks different. I guess yours is customized. How do you do this?
Okay, this is great. Great question. So you see these little pins?
Mm-hmm.
This is where you pin what you want from all these different menus. So
Okay, nice. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, so I've got them pinned and it's context aware. So if I click on a clip, you'll see that there's a little clip menu. I mean, I usually have mine on a bigger screen and my screen's I made it smaller so that you guys can see better. But usually I'll have more real estate up here. And so I've got these different things pinned for, for this context of clicking on a clip. Or if you click on an actual note, there's a different note context menu. So I've got quantize, transpose, up and down. Yeah,
crazy. Okay, that's awesome.
And it's really good for especially seeing if there's a short keyboard shortcut attached to something.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd always suggest like clicking on here and looking at what options you have up here and seeing if there's something you use very often that you probably need a shortcut for. So yeah, it's a good question. Anything else?
Awesome. Thanks, Silkie. Before we move on to,
I also have a question.
One second. Say who's speaking, Jules.
Yeah,
also have a question, sir.
Yeah, just 1 second. Jules is going to say something, and then we'll come back to you.
Yeah,
ladies first.
No, I just wanted to say before we move on to the questions, I wanted to say thanks all for sticking with us until the end. And you might have seen it in my email already, but we have an exciting giveaway to announce at the end of the workshop, which is now. And we're giving away a Studio Essentials producer and studio license. And if you want to participate in the giveaway, please put your name in the chat now, and then we'll select the winners and contact them after the workshop. Just wanted to mention that. So put your name in the chat, and then we'll select the winners and contact you after the workshop.
Can I put my name in the chat? No. Well, yeah, that's a good prize, man.
Yeah. Okay, on to the questions now.
Yes. So, as you were.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to know who invented Bitwig, because I already checked on the internet. It's a software, so I wanted to understand who invented it.
I will. Maybe Lucy, you can come online and say that because she's from the company. So I don't want to make up something. Yeah.
Can you repeat your question, please?
Repeat your question.
I wanted to be aware. I wanted to be alert. Who invented the Bitwig software?
There are 4 co-founders. And yeah, it was back in 2011.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm also from Bitwig. Hello, I'm Mia. I'm just here in the office as well. So yeah, Bitwig was founded by 4 people, and 3 of them are also the developers who were developing Bitwig from the beginning upwards. Now our team is bigger, but the founders are the ones who are also invented Bitwig.
Yeah.
So was it coded, or it's also a web? Is it a web development, or it's just the app?
It's an application, so it's a desktop based application. It's not a web application.
You can also use it mobile, or it's only on desktop.
It's only desktop.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Cool. Is anyone else got a question? Go ahead. Turn your mic on.
Hi, again.
No problem. More the merrier.
Well, I made I used Bitwig like as an artist. I started with GarageBand, and then I was shown to Ableton. It was always like too much for me, but then I was introduced to Bitwig like recently, and I was like, wow, I was amazed. the problem with what I faced recently is like I had a lot of tracks going on, you know, the bass, like grouping everything, vocals and stuff. Now while I render it, I have like a MacBook Pro, you know, it's a good like tool. It starts doing like this sound like while I try to hear what I've done. So what I tried was I saw like this, it has like this bounce and bouncing place where it kind of like
same CPU.
Yeah. But when I tried to do that again, like it shifted the
start point.
Yeah. It shifted like the start points of the drums, for example.
Yeah.
So it was like you had like a latency.
Yeah.
And it didn't really. I don't know. Like if you can show us like how to deal with that, or like from Bitwig, like.
So what were you bouncing it from though? So what was the original thing that you were trying to bounce? Was it an instrument, or what kind of thing was it?
The instrument. What instrument
was it?
It was a drum machine using sounds of drums from Bitwig and the bass.
Was it a Bitwig drum machine or a different drum machine?
Yeah, it was a Bitwig's drum.
To be honest, I don't think that sounds like it could be a bug, because that doesn't really sound like that should be happening. But I can give you a couple of pointers of I'm not. Have you got a sound card? How do you use your audio?
I have like a basic Focusrite with the budget is tight.
Because there's like do you know the settings of like to increase the block size?
Yeah, I tried that yesterday a little bit. I was trying to get in there. So if you can show us a little bit, like if it feels heavy, what should we be doing, or with the rendering thing, or the role of the bouncing within Bitwig, how to use that would be a good.
So like when it comes to bouncing, if you've got like an instrument that's doing quite a lot, I would say not to bounce in place. I would say to just do a bounce, like a straight bounce. Yeah. So example, like maybe like this, I say bounce. And then I usually try to do like pre-effects, because I still want my effects, and it's maybe just the instrument that's taking up a lot of CPU. So I say pre-effects, maybe 16-bit, and we'll do that. Okay, now what I will do is deactivate this. So if you say I've got it on M, but if I was to go into the instrument and turn it off, it's actually not removed from memory. It's turned off, but it's actually not saving as much CPU as if you actually deactivated it. So this is not deactivation. This is turning it off. You have to actually. Well, I've got it to like M. So if you press M, you see how it's different to how it was when I just turned it off. It's just like this. So I've got it on like deactivation, where like this, or you can deactivate the whole channel. So I've bounced what I wanted from this, and if I press M, I can deactivate the whole thing. That's actually not the shortcut on the normal Bitwig, because I've made the shortcut myself. But if you go into shortcuts, and then you see how it says toggle active? I put this on M. I'm not sure which one you would, what it's on originally, because I've done this a long time ago. But I know that this is the thing that you need to actually implement if you want to be able to deactivate channels. So if you've got a channel that you're not actually using, but you don't want to delete it, it's useful to deactivate it and then bring it back when you need it, So that's some of the techniques I use to manage my CPU. Yeah. And so if I was to do this now, and I was to, see how I've done it like pre-effects, I would have to like bring the effects over. So I would have to bring these over to the other one. So click on this, select this, and then I'd have to bring it to here. And then if I hold Control as I'm dragging it, release, it will copy it. And yeah, so now I've got a version that doesn't use the polysynth anymore. It's just got the audio, but I still have the effects that I can still change. And when it comes to timing, I've not really had any timing issues. That's why I think maybe it was it's a bug, and maybe you just have to wait for the newest update for that to be sorted out. But yeah, and the thing is, you can report this to Bitwig, So I think you can do it within the program, or I'm not entirely sure. I think maybe you have to go online and report the bug. But yeah, it sounds like a bug. Doesn't sound like something that you should be an issue, because I've not had that issue. Yeah. Any other questions? Come on, guys. Don't be shy. You just have to unmute your mic and say something. Go on, Esteban. I can tell you want to say something. Esteban wants to say something. Get the series on the edge, like, go on.
About the effects and I guess the overall sound of the genre, like, do you ever use any sound effects, or do you put everything on the tracks?
So me personally, I don't use that many ascend effects. I really like to have individual effects for each individual sound. So for the snare, I might want a very specific reverb. I probably should, but it's just not my workflow. My workflow is to kind of have the way I kind of do it in a similar way to ascend effects. So I'll show you what I mean. So what I would do, I would have an effects layer, and then I'll just click on here to go to all the these are all the presets of the effect layer, and then I would have like a delay effect. And this is cool because now the delay is on its own like level, and so it doesn't affect the level of the dry signal. Because sometimes I find it a little bit annoying when you do the mix, and then now it turns down the volume of the original thing that you've now set the volume for. So yeah, for me this is really cool because I can now just, I've still got my original volume, that's fine, but I can just add in my delay. And I've also got it set up in a, with this little like step sequencer, so it will only apply it to certain notes, so I can like kind of select it and say I just want it to happen here. Yeah, so it's really cool. You can set these things up and make it a preset and then get it later. So yeah, I've done loads of different things like that.
So how you did that? This looks really interesting. Like this dry, what is set to dry there?
So dry is just basically, all right, so I'll do it from scratch. So you've got the effects layer. Yeah, select that. And then it originally comes with dry. So the dry just means that there's nothing else on this signal. So it's going straight out of the output. Now, if I add something in here and I put like, I want a delay. Now, if I put the delay signal, sorry, it's going a bit haywire. So if I put the mix to 100%, now, wait, what's going on here? Oh, okay. I think that's why it's going. That's happening.
But yeah, I think I got the idea.
Yeah, you got the idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any more questions?
Maybe me. I see like you have you got like 3 instruments to it. Like one thing I'm struggling with is like external like instruments to like maybe launch clips and stuff. Like Ableton gets lots of I don't know, external devices that you can like control the DAW from without like using a mouse and stuff. Do you have any recommendations to like what kind of like tools to use when you don't want to use the mouse and launch clips like this?
So I mean, you can use that there's a script for it already. What's it called?
APC 40s are great too.
Yeah, APC 40s. I mean, Bitwig it's like a scripting system where you can actually, if you wanted to, you could script it yourself if you know JavaScript or Java. I've actually done a little script for my Roland A40 keyboard where, If I click one of the keywords, it will randomize a certain function for me. I've got a Behringer Touch, and that's for like mixing and stuff like that. And you know, I'm sure you could actually make it launch clips. So like for launching clips, there's so many things that are, you know, if you go to the Bitwig forum, which is on KVR, there's loads of scripts there that you can download for whatever you've got. There's, you know, it's been around for a long enough time that most scripts for most things are out there, and it's been really like involved scripts. Like the push script is really, really good. It actually even shows up like on the screen, it shows up like Bitwig actual like mixer channels that look like Bitwig on there. So it's gone really super involved. So yeah, you won't have any problem finding a script for whatever external hardware you've got. And if you need a very really specialized one, then maybe get a friend that knows how to write JavaScript, and he'll do it for you. Or you can learn it out. Or like I basically learned it myself. Like I don't really code.
I'm a web developer, but
you're fine then.
Yeah, like I'm not sure. Like I was not like I didn't have the motivation to do it. Maybe you can show me.
So like I mean, it's pretty simple, to be fair. Like I'm someone that's never done any web development in my life, and I wanted to make a JavaScript script for it. So where is it?
Really well documented.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, where is it? It's documentation. And yeah, so it kind of sets you up. It will give you like a JavaScript file that basically has, you know, the kind of starting point, and then you just have to do a few more things and you're good. Like the API reference is really good.
Yeah. I never done that before, so it must be like I'll have a look. Thank you very much. That's awesome.
And all you have to do is new project, JavaScript, type your name, and you know it basically will set up a really kind of ready to go kind of JavaScript thing, and then you just have to plug in the details from the API, and you're there to go. So if you're already doing web development, this is perfect for you. You know, I mean, it wouldn't even take much time, to be fair, and then you can do it exactly to your specifications.
Okay.
Cool. Jules, I don't know how long we got left. If there's time for any more questions, but let me know.
Time for one last question. Otherwise, I would say let's wrap it up.
Okay, perfect. So, anyone who's got a question, this is the time. Or forever hold your peace. I think Ariane Day, she wants a question. I can see it.
No, I just wanted to thank Bitwig, and I hope that there will be like a lot of chances to do workshops like that and get into more details, and that would be very useful. I think it's a great tool and it has a lot of potential. So that's all.
Okay. So for me, this has been really, really nice. Obviously, like the level that I was doing out here was really obviously on the, because it was marketed as a beginner thing, but there's so much more. I didn't want to go too crazy, but there's, you know, you can go really into the weeds with Bitwig. You can kind of hit it at whatever level that you want to approach it at. So we kind of, you know, done a beginner, but it's hard to do super beginner with a door because the door is not a super beginner thing in general. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, so it's been nice. Thanks for the questions, been good questions as well. And obviously thank you to Bitwig and Jules and Africa Rising Music Conference. Yeah, sounds like a great project.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Silkie, for taking your time and hosting this workshop. That was really great. And if you guys have any questions, you have my email address. You can just send me an email, and then we can further connect and stay connected.
Just as a last thing, you see like the Bitwig, the license, you know, like the 8-track? I think so, someone said that they didn't receive it. So maybe you can just send out an email with that.
I'll do that. Thanks.
No worries.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
All right, man.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
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 Shout out.
Big up. Bye.
Big up.